What's up, men? Welcome to the Male Cartel podcast. Let's get started.
Do you think men are important? Like for what?
Men are not meant to be dominant. Men are meant to be submissive.
Life's too short to exercise. I'm just going to be honest.
It's okay to be fat.
Dispelling toxic masculinity and really redefining what it means to be a man. Men can cry. So it's okay to be weak. Okay to be weak.
Rise.
I'm telling you right now, not everybody wants to see you win.
You seem to be more woman than you are man. You don't have any manly qualities.
You give them this message that it's okay to be a man.
It's not okay, it's necessary. How are we going to do without men? If you look around the city here, you see all these buildings go up. These men, they're doing impossible things.
It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Be a dangerous man. Being dangerous is not being a threat. They're two different things. You can't be a good man if you're not a dangerous man. You say one disrespectful thing to my wife, I am not only willing, but I am able to inflict great bodily damage.
I'm going to do everything in my power to become a victor and not a victim. I can't explain it, but you better feel me. Winners win and losers lose. I can't explain it any better than that. I don't know how it happens, but winners win. And if you create a culture of losing, if you keep being a victim, if you keep letting losing happen to you, if you keep letting people do you and treat you any kind of way, it's going to become a culture. What's the matter with you? There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow.
Here's your hosts, Nick and Shane.
Hey, we're back.
Yeah, man, I'm excited.
Hey, this is Shane, and Nick's with me. I'm looking at his beautiful bearded face, and he's close to the microphone.
Producer Carell was just telling me to get closer to the microphone, but I told him I have a beard. It'll get stuck. It'll make scratchy noises. And
he thinks like when you're slow dancing with Nikki, that's how you get so close, when you're whispering her in her ear.
Tickles her ears.
Tickles her ear, and then you say words like, I am Clark Kent, stuff like that.
Well, in her ear, I would tell her I am Superman, because she could keep my secret.
And then she
Talking
would
about
say,
looking
Clark?
good, man. You look good.
Man, I appreciate it. Tan.
You said a normal tan.
This is normal tan. I was super dark tan-wise in the month of June, because every Friday I'd go with my family and we'd go to the lake for the day. We're always outside, and then I kind of lost the tan. At least I think I did. And then so I was at the beach, and it was phenomenal on vacation last week. And then while on vacation, it was 90-something degrees there. I had no idea that it was chilly here in say, Augusta. And until Friday. And so I stayed in the shade a lot, because I was like, oh, I don't want to get, burned or whatever. And then come Friday, my wife tells me that, did you know that the cold front's here? And so when you get back home, it's going to be cold. And I was like, no way. And dude, it was like magic. Left Clearwater, Florida, Saturday, and it was like 86 degrees. This is around noon, and we're driving up. And by the time I got across Georgia, it was 80. And then when I arrived home, it was like 76.
Nice.
And I said, what in the world? And then we got home around 9 p.m. It was already dark, no sunshine. And I think it was like 61.
Nice.
And so, which for me, I like it when it's warmer. I don't like it when it's...
So it's kind of be your last tan.
This is
of the season?
The last tan. It should be like the last tan. How about you, man? What you been up to?
Man, a little bit of everything. I was thinking after we had gotten off our recording last time, a couple weeks ago, that I was like, I forgot when we were talking about what was going on about my truck. And
yes,
we call her the Black Beast, or him, because there's not been one thing my truck has not been able to haul, and it's hauled some heavy stuff. But in the last couple months, well, I wouldn't say couple months. The first one was on Mother's Day. I hit a deer, and it didn't quite kill it, but the police officer came out, put it out of its misery, drug it off the road. Didn't put a dent on my truck. Didn't damage it at all. And then the other day coming back, I was talking about speaking at Elam Baptist Church on the way back that evening. Another deer ran out in front of my truck, and I hit it once again. Absolutely no damage. And I was telling people, I was like, this is the, you know what a premonition is? I think there's a whole movie on premonition. This is the closest I have ever had to having a premonition. I was probably 50 yards from where the deer ran out in front of me. I had just passed a gas station, back roads, kind of in the Trenton, South Carolina, Edgefield kind of area.
You're out in the country, bro.
And out of my driver's side window, it was as if I saw a deer running at me. And so I look over, because I'm used to going to the gym early in the morning. It's dark out at 3 a.m. or about 3, almost 3, probably 3:20 when I leave the house. And so there are deer everywhere on Columbia Road. And so I'm used to seeing them. And so I keep my eyes on them. And so when I saw that, I look over thinking that a deer is about to run out in front of my vehicle, but there wasn't anything there. So I was like, well, maybe it was a shadow from the lighting or something through my window. Well, I go 50 yards and out the corner of same kind of side of my driver window, the corner of my windshield was the same almost exact view that I had just seen 50 yards back. And it was a deer running out in the road. And I hit the brakes, kind of veered, and I was like, yeah, I think I said out loud, like, oh no, not again, because I'd already hit a deer. And so I pulled over as quickly as I could where I was safe, got out with my little flashlight on my phone, looking, went back to see the deer. I could tell it was dead because of the other vehicles now coming. And so drove by, took some pictures. Its guts were all over the road, got him pretty good, or her, it was a doe. Went back to the gas station.
You never know in today's society if it was a boy or girl.
I'm not sure how she identified. I'm sorry. Or how it identified.
There you go.
Sorry. Sorry, dear. So went back to the gas station, inspected my whole vehicle, whole front, not a bit of damage. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a special bumper. It's a Z71 Silverado.
They call it a California bumper.
Maybe so.
You
maybe
run over
those
everything.
Maybe those binary, or what is it, non-binary deer are a little softer.
Probably so. Look, they're a little more tenderized.
I guess. I don't know.
But I saw your truck and it looked fine to me. Looked great.
I'm loving it,
dude. That's amazing. Yeah, it's hunting season right now. So if you kill another deer, take a picture of it, put it on Facebook or social media, and be like, "Got my first one this year."
Right.
You know?
What's the limit? Isn't there an
I don't
annual
know.
limit?
There is a limit.
Well, I'm at two.
You got 2 for 20.
I didn't get any meat from it either.
Man, you need to. We need to get producer Carell, see if he can go shoot us some deer. He's looking at us right now. You guys can't see this, but he's shaking his head. He's not a hunter. He's more of a gatherer, I think, because he's an eater. That's what he said. He's an eater.
Speaking of eating.
He drives by Chick-Fil-A, sees it. I want Chick-Fil-A. I've got to have Chick-Fil-A. So he goes in, he gathers his money, pays, and then gathers the food, and then just rides it and destroys.
Do you get 2 drinks when you go to Chick-Fil-A? Sometimes I see you, it looks like you've got 2 drinks. Oh, he gets a free one. Okay. Buy one, get one free, or using the points? Oh, using the points, yeah.
Well, I was about to say, we're going to have a conversation to see what his magic trick, not that we believe in magic, but his illusional trick is. We're going to have
for all those serious Christians out there, be like, you can't use the word magic.
Yeah. So this is fall festival season, so so
trunk or treat,
just to see how you get something free from Chick-Fil-A. Because I'm down for free stuff, dude.
I think he's got a hottie.
You think that he goes through the drive-thru and be like, "What's up, ladybug? What you got?
So.
My little chicken mini."
Well,
does that work? You think that would work at Chick-fil-A? If somebody worked there, if you call them pet names like, "What's up, my little nugget?" Do you think they would like that?
Based on some of the people that I've seen working there, I think so. I think you could flatter them very easily.
I think so too.
But speaking of Carell, his gift being eating, we had like a pastor's appreciation. I always take our staff pastors to a dinner the first week of October. And
how can I get invited? I haven't gotten anything for pastor appreciation in about 4 years.
Guess you got to be able to staff.
That's true.
Well, that's not always been appreciated by everyone. But anyway, it's something I want to do. It's something I like to do. We went to a place to eat, and Carell, of course, was there. But he wore a shirt that had it's like a tie, printed on the T-shirt. but it is keys for because he plays keys for like a keyboard.
Yeah.
And I realized that is how he picks up chicks, because he will ask them, "Hey, do you want to play my keyboard?" And so that's how he kind of picks up chicks. I saw, because there was a couple people there, and I was like, "Hey, are you single? Because you want to play his keyboard?" He was a little upset with me because that was his pickup line. And so,
Man.
but we were in Columbia, South Carolina area, and so we met a new listener. He subscribed. He was so excited about the podcast. It was awesome. Yeah,
dude. So speaking of the new subscriber, I don't know if this guy did it, but if he's listening, we had the best conversation, and we just kept on having a conversation during last week on vacation around the pool. And he was a granddad, and we were just talking, and then about guy stuff, and ended up my wife was already walked away, and the kids, and we were just talking for a while about, when guys get together and start talking about guy stuff, we kind of get locked in and to the conversation. And so showed him the podcast and all that, and he was super interested. And so I said, go ahead, man, sign up, listen to it. Start on episode 0. And so it was really, really, really cool. He was really appreciative too.
Nice.
That we're trying to encourage men to get better 1% every day, and just encourage them to, take responsibility.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, the guy that I met, his name was Vertus. Like Curtis, but with a V. Vertus. Yeah. So shout out to Vertus. Shout out to a man in Florida vacationing.
Yeah. I would say his name, but I totally went blank. I forgot his name. So that's all right. I just looked up Vertus's on our subscription. Listen, I literally forgot. I'm trying to think of his name now. Anyways, it'll come. I
remember he was like, "Hey, it's so and so. It's like so and so, but with a V." And so that's why I had to look it up. It was like Curtis, but with a V. But yeah, that was cool meeting someone new, talking about the podcast. And so, anything else going on?
I mean, this weekend I'll leave and go speak at a youth ministry retreat. And so that's this Friday. So I'll go to Florida. So busy week for me. And I'll miss being with the football team. And we had a bye week last week. So it was a great opportunity to be gone on vacation during the bye week. And then so I'll leave Friday. And then I'm actually drive through the night to get back and then record a video for them to play at the camp on Sunday. And so I got this camp about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. Okay. And so I'm excited about that. Nice. And other than that, normal, getting back to the grind. What about you? What's coming up?
We are getting ready to take a pastor's retreat to Puerto Vallarta. So
is that with the network?
No, it is with a group called the Harvest Foundation, and so it's essentially a free retreat. The only thing you have to do is pay for your transportation. You pay a deposit, and then when you show up, they give you that deposit back. They just want to make sure you don't sign up for something you don't show up to, which we'll talk about that a little bit, kind of around the characteristics we talk about today with part 2 of Duties of a Man. But yeah, looking forward to that. I hadn't really had much time off this year, except for the first part of the year. And that wasn't really a rest time. It was so busy. But that was my trip to Israel, which I wanted to kind of throw out there to see if you've been kind of keeping track of what's happening in Israel. I know a lot of our listeners have been, and a lot of themes around what we've talked about, really. And so, what you think about what's happening, man?
All I know is, I'm guessing, what day did everything start to go down?
I think it was Saturday.
Saturday, because it was on the way. I thought I was still on vacation, and I was, because we left Saturday. And I just remember seeing reports, I guess it was late Friday, things on social media, certain platforms, and I was like, huh. And then I went on like I normally do when I wake up in the morning, I kind of check the news and I just saw a lot of stuff happening. And my first response was like, I'm gonna have to drive. And the first thing I think about when I wake up in the morning, it usually stays with me most of the time throughout the day in various spots. And I just saw, just the attacks, and then there was a girl that was being paraded around, and my heart, I honestly, like, I grew angry as the day went on, and just disheartened. And I felt, honestly, I feel like, like there's nothing I can do about it.
Right.
Kind of helpless, And
like you want to do something.
Yeah, but I don't know what to do.
Right.
And then, we know like politically all the money that was given, and then people ask for money, and then you're going, listen, we don't trust anybody. I don't know who to trust.
Right.
But I know that I can't. I trust myself, theoretically speaking. Like I do trust myself, like, hey, let's go do something. And you can't, so you kind of feel like you're just, and it involves a girl, and then I saw other videos, and then I just stopped looking at the videos, to be honest with you, because it just wasn't good for my spirit, man. What about you?
Well, yeah, there's a part of me that's very cautious because I know in these type situations, some of those especially if you're on what's now X, used to be Twitter, there is a lot of propaganda. There's a lot of stuff used by both sides, and I support Israel in this because of what happened, but I also know they're not perfect. No country's perfect.
Yeah.
But I also know how things can be misconstrued or complete lies and how, especially with video, and it can be doctored, and there's videos that are shared from time to time, and you find out they're from like they're not even that country, or they're from another year or whatever. My thing here is, of course, as a follower of Jesus, I'm praying for the innocent on all sides, and of course those who are held hostage and those type things. But at the end of the day, there isn't that's what's driving me crazy, is seeing how many people are like, yeah, but Israel this, and it's like whatever has happened in the past, that needs to be dealt with then. But to sit there, if you go, oh, well, like there's been videos of Israeli police knocking a woman down, or these people, the Orthodox Jews, teaching their kids to chant bad things about Arabs or whatever. Okay, no one condones that, but that doesn't condone what Hamas did. Hamas coming into the country on these paragliders, shooting up primarily young people at a concert. Once again, we wouldn't agree with that concert. It's like a psychedelic type kind of concert, yet those are innocent, unarmed young people who are just out minding it was actually like a peace festival.
That's right.
They're out there promoting peace, and then they come in and murder them. And I think the count there is like 260. And then you do see videos of elderly. You see the women being kidnapped, and based on their own religion and what they believe, that they can rape the infidel women. They don't have to consider them as being married, and Allah is okay with that.
Yeah.
So there's a part of me, it angers me. You're like, I want to do something. I just went to Israel, and so I met the people, very kind people. I shared on my personal Facebook. I reshared a video from where they took me out in a little dance ring, and the guy came and put his arm around me. He was a bigger guy, and he drugged me out there. And then they put me in a chair and started lifting me up and dancing with me. And people were joking, saying that I got married to like 6 of those women. It was that was like a wedding ceremony or something. But the people were just genuine, good people. We're planning a trip in February, and so I'm, we're connected with a lady there whose daughter just got called up in the reserves, because what people may not know about Israel is once you graduate high school, everyone serves, guys and girls. And I'm not huge on women. I don't agree with women being on the front lines in the army, but men and women serve. And once you graduate at 18, you serve in the military. So that's why when they called up 300,000 soldiers, that's guys and girls. And so this lady we work with on our trip, her daughter just got drafted. So it's a little more closer to home of what's happening. And then you see those young girls being kidnapped or murdered, and you're like, I have a daughter. And you see the different chatter online, but I'm like, hey, if that were our southern border, because this was their southern border coming out of Gaza, you better believe if someone was invading my country and shooting up innocent people, I'm loading up and
handling the business.
Right. I'm not sitting around. And I think that goes into what we've been talking about, being capable men, being dangerous men, having a duty and a responsibility. But I'm definitely praying for the innocent people, even in Gaza, the what would be considered Palestinians, as well as the innocent Israelis. But Hamas has blood on their hands for any of their people even killed. I mean, if they cared about their young people and their children,
they wouldn't have done it.
They wouldn't have done it.
That's right. Well, I'd say 2 things. One, when you were talking, but I know The other thing I was thinking of when things are going down, I guess it was like Sunday afternoon, just a few days ago, was thinking about you particularly, and knew that we're going to, record a podcast and all that, and then knew you had skin in the game. I've never been to Israel or anything like that. I've known people from there, but I don't know. So I was wanting to know your take on it because you've met the people and you've met the culture. And then the second thing is exactly what you said, and that I'm a firm believer in this, and I know this is not a popular opinion. I've been scrutinized or debated or whatever, and I don't do a lot of debates. I just don't want, biblically speaking, because I'm a person of faith, I'm a Christian. I don't want to start quarrels or any kind of arguments. That's not going to be profitable. It's just like you versus me, and that's battle. I would let's do that in like a boxing ring or like a court or a football field or something like that to compete, but not to just one up each other. I'm not interested in that. But I'm a firm believer that things needs to get dealt with in those moments. And so whether it's, say, throughout history or even in a conversation you may have with your spouse or whatever, you deal with something. You're not allowed to bring something up. That happened 3 weeks prior and into a conversation, because now there's an issue in this conversation. Something's come up, so now we got to talk it out, but yet you're going to bring something up from weeks ago. We don't do that. This is not a trip. You're not allowed, one personal belonging and some 2 bags of luggage worth of drama, because what happens is just in life. And so if you're listening to this is just good wisdom. I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like this is good wisdom that, over time what you believe is truth, and you can know the factual truth begins to percentage-wise begin to be lowered. Like what you think, verbatim, you'll start using things like, well, this is kind of what was said, or it's not 100% true. And so you're already believing it. It's not, you're adding different artificial ingredients to the mix. And so it just it's not going to be 100% truthful. So if it's not 100% truthful, then we shouldn't bring it up in the first place. And so it's miscued in whatever that word is. And so throughout history, things need to get dealt with when there's a problem. And so that's why I have no problem with, if there's an issue in that moment, we handle it, whether it's country versus country, a person versus person, or a Republican versus Democrat, or however that shakes out in life. If there's a problem, deal with it in the moment, come to a conclusion, come to an agreement, peace treaty it, come to that, and then let's move on. And like an Etch-a-Sketch, like an old toy from my time in the 80s, it gets all messed up. The picture you start forming looks good, and then it gets all jacked up. You can shake that beast, and then it's clean, and then let's move on.
Right.
And if another picture shows up, and we jack it all up, then we shake that, and then we move on. That would help humanity out a lot. So in that case, I'm with you 100% in agreement. Like I'm on side with Israel, and then on both parties, there's always innocence. And it usually involves children,
right?
And those who can't really fight. And then there's always like political propaganda, people trying to like power, and my heart goes out to the babies, and we see that even in America, how kids get drug into certain things. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, if you as an adult make a decision, that consequence. I mean, we see it all the way into biblical times. That consequence affects your family.
Yep.
So when Hamas goes in and they're the leaders of Gaza, they're who the people chose, not to say all the people chose them. We understand that in our own political system. So not everybody, I'm sure, agrees with them, but that's the leaders. And when they go and attack, there's consequences to that. But what drives me crazy is everyone wants to then put it on Israel, and yet Israel has a policy of doing the best they can to protect innocent lives. But Hamas, like cowards, hide they have a command station under the hospital. They put their rockets near apartments because they don't care about human life. Yeah. I mean, you can see that from the videos. You can see that from what they did. And so when Israel goes to take out a missile battery, then it makes Israel look bad if they hit an apartment complex and then there's casualties. Yet my philosophy is yes, do the best that you can to mitigate those innocent lives. But at the end of the day, if there are any innocent lives lost, that blood is still on Hamas's hands.
Yeah.
You might as well just put it on their murder count, because they're
just exploiting the situation.
There's only so much you can do to take out an enemy when they hide among citizens. But I think it takes both groups wanting peace. And that's one of the things we took away from Israel. Yes, there's groups here that hate people. There are people who do not treat Americans or Christians who are Jewish from Israel. They don't treat you well, more the Orthodox and stuff, or they're just not as friendly. You see videos of them spitting on Christians. You can find that anywhere, because we're fallen, sinful human people. Overall, people are loving so much, too much, I think, in some ways. Like the whole Temple Mount, where they have a mosque. Israel rules, or they have ownership of Jerusalem, yet they still let them have a mosque on the Temple Mount. And we go, why?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? And yet they're trying to keep peace among their enemies and those who differ from them. So they are good people, sometimes too good. That's the difference between sometimes a good man and a nice guy. If you've listened to different podcasts where they make that differentiation, you can be a nice person, but sometimes being a good guy is doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes they're probably a little too passive, and that kind of causes some of the problems that they have.
So in light of all that, I know we're in part 2 of just a continuation of the last time that we spoke and on duties of a man. Well, so what are your thoughts on this go around?
I think like we were kind of going over some things before we started the podcast. Some of our best conversations, by the way, are before the microphone.
100%.
We just need to record, period. Clean it up if we have to. But I think, as you said, you kind of put it in a nutshell, and I like it. And we could talk about the specifics, but you were saying it comes down to character.
Yeah.
And so I think that is where it begins, is being men of character. And then I mentioned off of that was our identity.
Yeah.
We as followers of Jesus, and I don't know that everybody that listens to this, because of the reach that we've been given, are followers of Jesus, but I believe that it is just, a root truth that everything we do has to come out of our identity. And we have to understand that our identity is that we are made in the image and the likeness of God. And if you look in Genesis, and I taught this at the Men of Valor breakout session, if you look at Genesis, man was made in the image and the likeness of God first, man and then woman. And we were created in his image. Then out of that, you will see he was given a duty and a responsibility.
Yeah.
And he was given dominion over the earth and to rule the earth, to name the animals and all of those things. His responsibility came after his identity. So I think when we talk about some of the specific things we'll maybe mention here in this podcast, in this episode, it comes down to who we are. And I don't think a lot of men can answer that. I think we've been shaped into athletes. We've been shaped into what we do.
Yeah.
We've put duty and responsibility and what we do before our identity and who we are.
That's a good word.
So it's an athlete, it's a soldier, it's a this, it's a that. It's whatever our parents told us. Maybe you had a drunk dad or whatever, an alcoholic dad, or abusive mom, or whatever that might be, and they fed lies to you, and you've made that your identity because maybe you're a wild child and this, that, and the other. And so you were fed certain things about your identity, and you've lived that out, and your responsibility and your duties are now skewed based on the false identity.
Yeah. You see that, like I see it all the time working with young people, and then you can really trace it back to just how they treat each other, and how they treat, like if it's a guy, treat females, and just what he was taught. It's all like has been twisted and distorted, and then they have so many problems, and it really stems back to what they were fed, and they were fed lies and half truths and twisted and thrown everything else. It's kind of like one of those. It's kind of like the billboards where it shows like a picture of a nice hamburger, and then you roll up in to get a hamburger, and it looks like nothing like the picture. And then, but yeah, you're kind of fed that lie.
I love Chick-Fil-A, but speaking of Chick-fil-A with producer Carell, that happened to me yesterday. I went and got instead of getting like a spicy chicken biscuit, when I'll go in the morning, I'll get a spicy chicken on one of those muffins.
Oh yeah,
what do they call them?
Hold up, it's not a McMuffin.
Not a McMuffin. McDonald's has changed it.
What is it?
It's not an egg McMuffin. It's a English muffin.
English muffin. I knew it had to be something over there with. So Europe.
I waited 15 minutes. Because they said there was a big order before I got there for one little, you might say biscuit, but it was a spicy chicken English muffin. And then I get it, and it's so thin. And I'm looking at the picture on the app, and I'm like, that's not the same thing.
What was thin, the chicken or the muffin?
The chicken.
You know?
It was almost like it was overcooked, and the meat was gone. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's hit or miss nowadays. Like, honestly, it's hit or miss. I'll go and I'll get a good, chicken sandwich from there, and then I get the pimento cheese one, because I really dig it. And then there's a tiny bit of pimento cheese. And then the next time I go, it's a ton of pimento cheese. And then the chicken looks like it went to the, it's like it's a track athlete or something. It's all shrunken up like it's losing weight, bro. And it went to a sauna. They threw it in a spa, and it shrunk up, man. Don't even poke out on the outside of and you're thinking of a sandwich of like $8.
Are you in there?
I know. And you're just like, same thing. You had chicken nuggets, my kids did, and there's 8 nuggets. And then I swear 2 of them one was like a partial of a nugget, and the other one was like the crust of a nugget.
But they counted as a nugget?
They counted as a nugget. And I was going, those should just be thrown in. You know what I mean? But not made. But there was a day in time, though, and I remember vividly in the 90s, even in the early 2000s, where you go to fast food, they would just throw stuff in there, But the quality wasn't as good. It didn't taste as good probably, but they would just throw extra stuff in. It wasn't a big deal. I guess inflation has crept up. So everybody's trying to make these.
Now they're reducing.
But this chicken sandwich still tastes good.
Yeah.
I'm never going to say it doesn't taste good. But it's just smaller. And it's definitely not what the picture says. And so,
more expensive, but smaller.
And smaller, yeah. And so I'd rather go to a buffet. I'd rather have something that's like a 6 or 7, but a lot of it, versus something that's like a 9 and a tiny bit of it. Because I'm a bigger guy, I like to eat. And so if I eat, I want to eat. And when I walk away from a meal, I want to be, about 70% full.
Yeah.
I don't want to be 100, but 70%. I want to leave like, man, that was a really good meal. I don't want to leave and it was like a snack. And my wallet said it was a feast.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So character. So what are you thinking in the lines of that?
Well, we ended last week's podcast maybe with one of the first things we could kind of throw out there. And I think that's being men of integrity and men who do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
And if there's anything in our field of work, our primary work, not podcasts, because we haven't got paid a dime for this. We haven't asked for a dime. There's a way to support the podcast, so people can do that. But we just ask for likes, reviews, and shares. Right. So please do that.
Just show some love.
Right. Just show some love. In our career field, in our ministry, what we're called to, we see a lot of this. I can't speak for you, but people who will commit to stuff.
Yeah, man.
And then they don't follow through.
Yep.
Sometimes that's just in general. Or I could even say us as men of faith who follow Jesus, who even commit to say we're living that out, but then we don't live it out. Yeah. Like even in our relationships, or when people don't follow through in the church world, having a conversation to go, hey, I'm upset about this, or hey, I know I committed to this, but I'm not going to be able to. Most people just ghost you; they just disappear, or whatever that might be, and then they don't hold to their word. So I think that's one of the first things we could look at was being men of integrity.
Yeah. So like I always say, you look at like integrity is kind of like how character fleshes its way out. It's kind of like the sweat, what you inside, your character and what you sweat. Because if you ever like been around somebody who drank alcohol and they start sweating.
Yes.
They smell like alcohol. It comes out of their pores. So it's the same thing with integrity. And that's like, that's back in the day though. Like, and I remember my granddad, because he was a Vietnam vet, Korea. predominantly raised by him. He was like the only like father figure that I had. I had uncles as well, but my granddad, he was a person about man of your word. So you're gonna do something, you're gonna do it.
Right.
I had another uncle, Uncle Thomas, and he would always say that and he did a ceramic tile business. And from I guess I started working with him. I was 13, and he was really particular of how he did things. And he would say, "Does this look like he could put his last name on our job?"
Okay.
Because every job that he did, it was like, this represents his last name. Man, that has always stuck with me. From my granddad to him, he was very particular. And my granddaddy was always like, hey, you give your word, you must show up. So from a young age, even though we could talk about my childhood was a certain way, I still had some people that God placed in my life that could show me exactly like be a man of your word. And so I've always, if I give you my word, if I say yes to something, I will try my 100% to make sure that happens.
Right.
And I don't have to like, I don't have to work hard at it. Like honestly, it's not, it's like, oh, it's just what you do. Even if you're tired or even if I'm, not feeling good, it's just like embedded in me. But I do realize there's some people that's not embedded in it. And I think that's why I'm grateful for you, like us talking about this right now, because I think this is definitely a needed thing. And it's something I talk to athletes with about all the time. And I raise my own children to be people of their word as well. And if something comes up, then just, we live in a day and time where we have mass communication. It's not like back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
When you and I were kids, like you pick up the house phone, you can't reach somebody. How are you going to do? You know, send them a letter and it's going to get in the mail 5 days. And they're going to receive it in 5 days. You if you can't reach them, then you got to keep calling them.
Right.
But now we have so many forms of communication. Being realistic about it, highways, there's more. It's faster than back in the day than 40 years ago. In Augusta, 30 years ago, there's more lanes. Think about Grovetown. Grovetown used to be, that's a city. If you're listening and you're out of town, it's a city next to Augusta, and it used to just be 2 lanes and nothing there but just a fort for the military. But now there's everything there. It's blown up, and now traffic is crazy, and they're always making new roads and subdivisions, and it is blown up. And so going from A to B used to be just literally seconds, like 30 seconds in a car. Now can take you 15 minutes. And then if it's during school time, it'll take you 45.
Oh yeah.
And so I get it that sometimes things happen, but now we have more communication. So what we got to do is we just got to communicate.
Right.
Especially if but people, we mentioned about the sniffles last time, and people just, I don't know, man. I feel like everybody's a little bit softer these days. What do you think?
I think we have to also teach it. We have to model it.
Yep.
So next week we're going to be interviewing the OG, my dad, Papa Carnes, Tim Carnes.
The GOAT.
The GOAT. He taught me through fulfilling his word that how to be a man of your word. And so when I was younger, I got a lot of paddlings, a lot of
your spiritual gift was spankings, bro.
that was my special gift. Was I guess his special gift because he would give them. He went from a leather belt to a paddle, and then he switched to Bible verses. We had to write a bunch of Bible verses based on what we did. Like if we lied, I could tell you like all the Bible verses that deal with lying, deception, all that.
Well, that I started with my son Andrew with that,
with the Bible verses,
all because you inspired me when you told that story to me. I was like, oh yeah.
I used that at the Salvation Army when I managed a substance abuse program there. I made men.
That's so good.
One guy said, "I'm not a kindergartner," and I said, "Then don't act like it. Yeah. Here's your Bible verses that you're going to write." But I had one guy actually send me a message the other day. He's doing really well, and he sent just a verse. Well, it was a verse I recognized because it was a verse I made them write. I said, "Hey, is that a verse that you had to write?" And he said 3,000 times, which I think was an exaggeration, but only one guy had to write 3,000 verses. It took him, I think it was 9 notebooks front and back because it was a very long one, but there's a whole story to that.
So, all right, so which real quick before I let you go, because I just popped in my head, which one, Gavin or Tristan? Which one got the most verses to write? I can remember you posted one on social media one time, and I was like, that's money.
They've probably gotten about equal.
Yeah.
And Gavin would probably be upset that I did this with Tristan, but I was just going through a phase where I was kind of like, okay, there's punishment, then there's discipline, but in it, we also want to teach like we want to live out the gospel
Yeah.
even in discipline. We don't want it to be about just punishment.
Yeah.
Where is the redemptive story in this? How do we bring about the gospel? So I had issued Tristan some Bible verses for something that he had done. And so I'm thinking about this.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, how can I teach him the gospel through this situation? It dawned on me, what is the gospel?
Yeah.
It is God gave us requirements. We couldn't fulfill those requirements. So then he sends Jesus to fulfill those requirements for me. So it's like, okay, how does that look in this situation? And so it dawned on me, it's writing those Bible verses for him. And so as he slept, knowing there was no way by the deadline, he was actually probably going to get it done anyway because of being distracted by other things, it was due like the next day. And he had done some. I went in and I got the notebook that he was writing them in, and I sat up late into the night writing those Bible verses. And then I set them back where he had them so that when it was time for him to turn them in, the only thing he had to do was essentially take the gift that was given to him and give it back to me.
Oh yeah, that's good.
And it was fulfilled. But it gave me the opportunity to show him and to teach him the gospel, and that's what God did for us through Christ. He set the requirements, we couldn't fulfill them, but he did through Jesus, and it's a gift given to us, and all we have to do is accept it and then basically apply that faith back to him. Now, he could have said, well, I'm going to do this anyway. This could be a trick. So, I'm going to do this anyway. But he understood enough to be able to just go, here, they're done.
That's right.
That only happened one time, though. Probably should have done it with each of my children just to teach the same lesson. But thankfully, we haven't had to discipline them much in that. But probably, I would say almost equal with both of them. But with Gavin, he was our first. We were probably a little harder on him because he's that.
And that's why he turned out so great, dude. He's turned out great.
He's not a beta male, but he was the beta version of the children. So, but yeah, my dad, when I was younger, if we were in the car fighting, arguing, whatever, it could be noon on a Saturday and we're out all day, and he could tell me in the car that I'm getting a spanking when we get home. Now, we might get home at 3 p.m., we might get home at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., but there were at least a couple of occasions that I remember that he told me when we get home, and it was early in the day, you're getting a spanking. And I remember falling asleep in the car because it was later in the evening, going into the house, getting ready for bed, getting in bed and laying down to go back to sleep from where I'd fallen asleep in the car, and him coming in and going, get up, I promised you a spanking. And it's just like, are you kidding me? How do you remember that for 9 hours? But he promised it to me. He didn't say, I promise you. He just said, when we get home, you're going to paddle. But what it taught me was even down through life, I could count on my dad, because if he gave his word,
that's right,
then he was going to fulfill it, whether good or whether bad. Because if he can remember for 9 hours of paddling, then he can remember other things. I can't recall any. That comes to the top of my mind immediately when we talk about like integrity and being a man of your word. I can't think of a time that he didn't keep his word to me.
Yeah.
He wasn't perfect. There were many times that there were disappointments and things like that, but I can't remember a time where he gave me his word, whether good or bad on my part, that he failed in that way.
Man. Yeah, that's a good word, dude. I can't wait to have the OG on. I know for me, he's always been a very constant person, just always encouraging me, and I've always tried to, if he needed help for something, I'd definitely show up, whatever he needs me to do. And it hasn't been a lot, but I've always just loved your dad and look up to him, and see how all the grandkids, which is a good testimony, see all the grandkids love him, and him doing things for the family and just being a very present figure. It wasn't like, you get to a point in life, I believe, for some people, so I choose my words carefully here. Some people, you reach a certain point in life and they just retire. They get enough money, they're at their 50s and they retire. It could be 40s if you did really well money-wise. And when they retire, and to do what John Piper mentioned in one of his messages, they pick up seashells and and just have a boat and they just retire from everything, and there's people that do that, and then there's dads and moms that do that, and then there's grandparents that do that, and they think, well, whatever, and they show up every once in a while and pop in, and they have no desire about being involved. They've done their job and they sign off. They're in retire mode, and I don't think it works that way biblically. I don't think it does, and so I always admired your dad because he's always been bought in. Let's go. I'm in it. This is who I am. It's who he is. It's his identity, and it shows by his character.
Yeah, and we'll talk more to him and let him kind of share some of his story or perspective. But even in the realm of ministry, that's a commitment that you make.
Yep.
And based on a calling that you feel like this is what the Lord's leading me to do or whatever. He serves a church even now that he's bivocational, essentially. He doesn't need the money. He's not doing it because he needs the job. They needed a pastor. They asked if he would be willing. It's close to his home. They wanted to be connected to a church in their community. And so he is serving that church he just turned 66 on October 8th. So happy birthday at 66 years old, where some people are like, all right, I've dealt with enough heartache and headache with ministry and with people and stuff like that. I've got a job that pays my bills and that supports me and my, now just essentially my mom, because we're all grown and, have our own lives, but he can support himself. He can enjoy it because he has raised 4 kids and some grandkids, and, and so he could go, I'm good. I'm going to go collect seashells, although he's a mountain guy. But I'm going to go hike the mountains or do whatever, and I'm good. But instead, he is spending his years still serving the church because that's a commitment that was made not to man, but to God. And so I think that's important. I think that's what integrity is. Integrity is you're going first. There's a lot of people who try to speak a good game. They like to say a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it's like you're not living it out. And that's not integrity. Integrity is I'm going to go first. It could be a step or two ahead, but I'm going to lead the way and I'm going to go show the way. And that's where I think we lack accountability. We lack, and I just drew a blank on the word, but essentially authenticity with people is because we like to say a lot of things, but then we don't live it out. And I think that's what integrity is I say it, I'm going to do it because there's eyes on me now.
Yep. Oh, 100%, dude. It's like, I always say you should never want credit for something that you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of men too that they want credit for doing what you're supposed to do. It's like,
for sure.
You shouldn't want credit for that. Hey, listen, I did this. It's like, nah, you're a man. That's what you're supposed to do, bro. It's like, you want to get credit for wiping your behind? You should be wiping your behind. You know what I mean? It's like,
good job. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not going to give you, I'm not going to pat you on the back, but thank you that we don't have to smell you.
That's right. That's right. I had somebody tell me the other day, they were like, hey, are you so proud? I woke up early this morning. I'm like, not really. I'm not really proud of you. And they're like, I know. I was just saying, And you're like, no, I'm not proud of it. Like, yeah, you should not stay up to 3 a.m. and then wake up at 6:30 and then want me to give you maybe a coupon or applause or a trophy or something.
That's like some of those some of the restaurants that they're not serving you, they're doing their job and they then want tips at the end.
Dude, that is a thing now.
It is a huge thing. And I don't know if it's so companies feel like they don't have to pay out extra and give raises or whatever, but I'm like, you just did your job. Like I don't preach on Sunday and then have a tip jar. I get paid.
That started during COVID. You know that. I do feel like it started during COVID because you're doing takeouts.
Well,
you could eat indoor, and I felt like they just started it, and then it was like, hey,
but there's some places been doing it.
Yeah, well, I know one place that I've eaten. I'm gonna get my food like Johnny on the spot, and then you have that little MacBook, this white looking thing, and then it has the tip. And it says none. And when I sign it every single time, bro, that waitress, well, I don't know who she is, she's a salesperson. She just looks at me. She goes, have a nice day. It's just kind of super bland.
Yeah.
There's no tip. Yeah, bro. I ain't giving you if I give you a tip, it'll be some other tip. Well, don't root for the Florida Gators right now because we're trash. So that's a tip.
One of them, you have to hit other. And then
That's right. Yeah.
They put all the numbers. Then to actually skip out of it, you have to hit other.
Yep.
And I was somewhere, and it's kind of like a Chipotle. It wasn't Chipotle, but it was that style of a place. So you walk through the line, they're doing their job.
Yep.
And then you go sit down, and you get your own drink and your own utensils and all that stuff. Like, you take care of the rest. And so the person said at the cash register, if we did a good job today, and then hits up the tips, like, you can leave us a tip. And I'm, they're watching you,
That's
and I
right.
go, other or skip or whatever it is. And it's like, you get paid to do your job. Now, there are certain jobs where people are doing a service. I was a waiter, so I understand. I got paid $2.13 an hour.
Big money.
Right. But you made tips, but your tip was to ensure proper service. That's what tips mean. And so you're serving that customer, refilling their drinks, bringing their food, cleaning up the table. I mean, you're working for that table. A lot different than going through the...
Oh.
So, yeah.
Well, dude, listen, I left 5% tip one time because the gentleman, when he gave me a scoop of chicken at this restaurant, that thing was heaping. And then he went back and gave a little dabble of more chicken.
Nice.
And I was like, that was awesome. Usually I do this, that little half a scoop almost, and put it on there, and then you go, can I make it a double? I always wait for that one scoop to come by.
See what it's...
And I was like, man, I came to the end, and literally, I don't know if I went blank or whatnot, but it was I was so pumped, dude. I just did 5%, and it was probably 40 cents,
We're all the same, though. I will see what they do the first time before I ask for extra.
100%.
We went to a place not too long ago and got such good service. Even Tristan, because he enjoyed the guy that was part of the team serving us, he called the guy over, and the guy was funny. He was joking with us, giving us fist bumps and all. Tristan tipped him himself just extra because he liked the guy and enjoyed it. So, yeah, I have no problem tipping people, but the job needs to require it.
Yeah.
Just like being a man, you don't get extra tips and you don't get extra pats on the back for doing the basics of what you should be doing.
That's right.
It's your responsibility.
One thing about, you think about duty as a man, I think about just being kind of the under rower. I think, you're not going to get, and some men will, some men like in their home, maybe they have a chair and they're the king of their castle and all that. We don't subscribe to that. Just as, I don't know what you do, but I know for our family, we don't have like the king of the castle. There's no king. We have King Jesus. But like, I think of like the under rower, like in a ship, they're not on the board looking at anything. And so I feel like a part of us as men, like who we are, our character should be servants and that we should serve. And so in response to that, we shouldn't get bent out of shape if we're treated like a servant, like if we're not acknowledged, like what you're saying.
Right.
And I think that's one thing that I would love to see serving. What I have seen over the years, and this has kind of been brought up probably the last several years, I would say at least since COVID, right? At least in my world, I've seen guys who do serve, and then they serve so much, and then they're passive at everything leading. Like I've rarely seen men who serve and are faithfully just serving their family, and then they lead at the same time. I've seen some that are like on top of the ship, like commanding, barking orders, and they're leading and they're breaking through the ice and making the hard judgment calls and taking the stray bullets, and they're doing what they're supposed to do. But they don't really want to serve, man. They serve from a place of like, hey, this is my perch, and their wife is running the show, man, keeping everything together. And I think some of that, like in the home, how you design your home, your wife can take care of the home. Like my wife doesn't work; she's a stay-at-home mom, and so there's some responsibility. It's her responsibility because she's a stay-at-home mom, and I expect her to do this. This is like her job. But I've seen it, and I think I'd have a desire. I'd love to see more men like just serving. And serving, when they serve, then like what we've been talking about, don't wave a banner. Look at me. I'm doing a fantastic job. And I'm like, or I think I now deserve this. And I'd just love to see the shift. There was a time and place back in the day where people worked on farms, and just the dad got up early before everybody else and went out to the field. And if it was raining, and if there was no rain, he was going to try to find, like what you said at the last episode, by any means necessary. They're willing to do the hard stuff. And I'd love to see that, man. What you think about all that?
When you're saying that, it makes me think about, like, in the role, especially as a pastor, there's often that mentality of, well, I'm the pastor. I don't need to do that, or I shouldn't have to do that, or whatever.
That's
I have
true.
no problem. We have 2 teams that do landscaping. Sometimes, based on the schedule of a week, people might not be able to do that because of their family their kids having a ball game, or other responsibilities. And so sometimes it's shorthanded. I have no problem getting out there and doing landscaping with the team, even as the leader, as the pastor. There are times that I'm up front and I'm leading and giving vision and calling people forward. But then there's sometimes I have to get out there alongside of them, and I don't mind that at all. Whether it's cleaning up a flood, or whether it's getting, I've been outside with producer Carell with a shovel at night with lights, digging holes, trying to find a leak in the water line. So I think that transfers in every aspect of our life as men, that there are times we lead, there are times that we're called to be out front, to defend, to protect, all of those things. But then there's times where we have to also serve and be of service to other people, to humble ourselves. The scripture says not to think more highly of yourself than you ought. And so it's not always seeing yourself as the leader. You are the leader, but sometimes people are going to look to you to see, can you serve as well, not just bark orders. And so I think that's very important. And then I also think being men who defend and being men who are capable, I think that can be boiled down to just being men who are disciplined and being disciplined. That could be not only in finding a way, as we talked about, in providing for your family, but also how about in delayed gratification? I think you learn that in fitness. You don't just go hit the iron and then all of a sudden you got big muscles. It takes a while. I think in the same way, it's not just what you earn, but it's also how you manage your money, how you save. That's something Gavin, my oldest, learned early on, having no problem learning to save, and he would save up for what he wanted, even as a young guy. Tristan does the same. Haley does the same. She's wanting to save for a vehicle because she's getting close to that time. They all work. They work hard. But it's that delayed gratification of having to say no to something now in order. That takes discipline. And you have to go, what do I want most? And I think then you work hard towards that goal versus just, kind of just spending here, buying here. And that's transferable in all things, is being disciplined in having a goal, having a vision, having core values, and then striving towards those things. I think that's very important as a man. I think that's one of our responsibilities. And we have to teach that and show it.
Teach it, model it. One of the things when you were saying that, I was immediately, a question popped up was like, so what are you depositing? And so you think you wanted a car, you're saving up for something, you deposit the money, you deposit, well, what are you depositing, and why are you, if you're depositing something that's not that great or it's below average, then why is it so little? Like, why are you giving so little effort, in this? It's the same thing like you mentioned working out. It's like, I'm going to go to the gym, say if somebody was not super overweight, but they wanted big muscles or whatever, and they went to the gym just for 10 minutes. You know what I mean? And then they're like, and that was all they're going to, but they had a lot of time.
Right.
They just choose to be lazy, which it comes out to having character and integrity and, who you are. And that's a good check just to think, like, what are you depositing and being disciplined? And we live in a world where everything, remember the old school easy button? That was on a commercial, I think.
Yeah, it was Staples.
Staples, yeah. And you hit that and it was the easy button. And
they make it easy.
Making it easy, man. And I think that I think our society as a whole, just the place that we live in makes things very easy where you don't have to try hard. And I think it's going to be hard, man. I'm out. Marriages too. That's why people give up in marriages.
I like what Bedros Keuilian says. And
who again?
Bedros Keuilian.
Man, dude.
I think that's how it's pronounced.
Man, you're a wordsmith, dude. I couldn't even say that.
And I might pronounce it wrong.
No,
but
dude,
he has,
it sounds right to me, though.
He has so many rules of life. And one of the things he says is how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Oh, gosh.
How you do one thing is how you do everything. And especially in being disciplined, that's really hit home because there are areas that we want to improve in, that we need to grow in. In 2 episodes, we've talked about even we're going to be talking about our failures, how we failed as a man, and we probably would need multiple episodes on that. But so you always, there's that tension, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. But I think that's why being disciplined in certain areas help you in other areas. Because if you start getting disciplined here, now all of a sudden you start seeing other areas to where you can apply those same principles, that same discipline. And I know we've talked about it several episodes, but being a capable man to be able to protect, and I look at Israel and I see these young people having to run through an open field from gunfire. And I think if my children were there and I'm having to protect them, I need to be able to physically do that. But what about running away through the open field? Like, how far would you be able to make it before you're gassed and out of breath and you get slaughtered by a machine gun because you can't get away from a terrorist? And so you just see these things and you think discipline applies in so many areas. But when we talk about even our fitness, it's so important in every aspect of our life, because you have people going, hey, there's Hamas cells here, there's terrorist cells here. And depending on what the United States decides to do, and I don't think we necessarily have to get involved in the battle, like we can do sanctions and there's things that we can do. We don't have to put our troops on the ground, I don't think. But the terrorists are saying, depending on what America decides to do, there could be repercussions. Well, I think they hate us anyway. I think in timing. But regardless, what if that happened here? What if you were in the mall and something happened and you're having to get your family to safety? Can you physically do that without falling out? It's important, you know, and we looked at a video earlier, and we'll look at it at a different time because of time, but where the guy was talking about how he had to make his guys tough because he expects his sons to even basically be able to take care of his family. I think that's a duty and it's a responsibility. So I think discipline is a huge responsibility.
Well, I think if somebody was asking or wondering right now, they listen to this and they go, you know, how can I be more disciplined, and how can do, you know? And I would say simply, just be consistent and just start something and then do it again, and then because consistency breeds consistency, which breeds consistency, and then sooner or later, like clockwork, there's a breakthrough. But you can't just give up halfway, or because you get your feelings hurt, and you just got to keep getting up, keep doing what you're supposed to do. You set some times, you set whatever you set for yourself. Just be consistent by all means, and then just tell yourself, I'm going to handle my business, and then handle it. And once that's over with, wait till the next day. I think some men too can, like a lot of people, can feel like have a lot of anxiety that they got to, like, you know, we talked about this in one of the episodes like previously, that they have to do a whole lot at one time, you know, and it can look overwhelming. It's like, no, just
small things. Start with
one thing, do that and get better. And you say this a lot, you get 1% better, and then you do that, and sooner or later you're going to be at a place where you're going to have a lot of confidence, and then which breeds more confidence. And it's not to make us arrogant, it's to make us more capable and make us better.
I think another thing goes into that, and there'll be another episode. I've already thought it through, and we've kind of talked about it. But as we can prepare to wrap this one up, is the brotherhood that we have around us. Because some people, you can't challenge them, you can't tell them anything. They want to act like they're teachable, but they're not teachable.
They think they Rambo, man. They're Lone Rangers.
They think they're Rambo.
They're not Rambo.
Yeah. But but you need someone who can call you out or call you up to a higher level. And so we'll talk about that in a future episode and discuss that. But I think that's when you want to be disciplined, you have blind spots. And Nikki and I were talking about that the other day. Like, how do people we all have blind spots, but to see what people post online or to see what they're saying, and then you go, do you not see that in your own life?
Yeah.
You know, there are times that I struggle to post something because then I go, well, hold on.
1,000%.
How are you doing on this?
Yeah. Well, you know, that comes to being self-aware too. Like some people are just oblivious. Like what you were saying right there, not to cut you off. I'm the same way. Like, I feel exactly what you're saying. I'm like, I'm not even I'm doing a terrible job. I got to like fix this junk,
Right.
I think that's why a lot of people are going to like our 2 episodes from now when we talk about our failures. So those who don't really, you're listening, maybe you don't really like us all that well. Maybe you like Nick, but you don't like me, or vice versa.
I think it's vice versa.
Whatever. Whoever doesn't like it, they're going to really love this episode. So you need to tune in, whether you like us or not. You're going to love it. Take notes. Yeah, love it. And just share it.
They'll be cutting little snippets, and doesn't matter what we say beyond. If it's something that fits their narrative, see, I told you this about Nick.
Dude, we will roast ourselves. So you ain't got to. We don't think that highly of ourselves. Just so you know, when you listening, those who are listening, we don't take ourselves too seriously. We do not. What you see is what you get. We don't think we're the world's best at anything. But one thing we will, and I'll say this for a fact, and this is just our honest heart and my honest heart right now in this moment, is that we're gonna try to do our best, and so you'll get that from us. And so some of our best that we can offer is poop, and then sometimes our best is turns out really well, and by God's goodness and his grace and sovereignty, it's turned out great, and we just kind of stumble through it, but we'll try hard.
We're willing to grow,
yeah,
and
man.
We're willing to learn, and
100%.
that's, I think, what we are calling everybody else to.
Yeah,
I mean, just the other day you sent something that was making fun of skinny jeans, and I replied and said, look, my skinny jeans are by necessity, not because of style, because that's
right.
what fits me. So
that's so funny.
We can laugh at each other, laugh about ourselves, and I think that's what makes our relationship great, but also makes this podcast worth listening to for some people, because we're not experts by any means. We're just speaking through our own experience, but also I think speaking through our own growth and learnings as we're on this journey together with everyone. But I do think this wraps up with a good discussion. Once again, would love to hear from other people on the duties and responsibilities, what they would like to add to that.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, for sure. And once again, as we ask always, if you're finding any benefit from this podcast and from what we are sharing, we would love for you to not only leave us a review either on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, leave a 5-star review or whatever star you think we've earned, because like the tips, we only want what we've deserved. But also you can write in a review, which people read, and that goes a long ways as well, to share each episode or to share the podcast as a whole. That would be a huge blessing and benefit, not only to us, but to other people who are looking for good content to grow by.
Yep. 100% agree. If you like it, share. If you love it, share. Yeah, like Nick always says, get 1% better.
Absolutely. 1% better every day. Y'all have a great one, and we will see you in a couple of weeks, or we will talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Yep, peace.
Thank you for joining the Male Cartel podcast. Be sure to subscribe and share to help other men join the cartel. You can also keep up with us on social media and at malecartel.com.